record in the playoffs.
That's right.
Losing to Drew in the earlier rounds won't matter that much if he's able to seal the D here in the top 8.
New season, 0-0.
New season.
That's right. Nothing matters now. It's playoff basketball time.
And it looks like Drew's going to have a slight uphill battle game 1 as he's going to 6 against Scott, who's still on 7 and has the play in this matchup.
As being the 2 seed, he does have the option, definitely going to play first. Going to be some close games. Keep in mind as well, stay tuned with us after this game. We'll be asking our question to give away 3 months of premium. We're also going to be giving away 6 months during the semifinals, and a full year of premium during the finals of this tournament. So don't you go anywhere. Sunday night football game's on. You can have that on in the background, I guess. But you're going to want to stay tuned here.
So, would you say the most powerful card in Scott's deck is Aether Vial?
Yeah, almost certainly. It's, if it has Aether Vial on turn 1, it's kind of, the thing that ties the whole room together. Lets him play really some unfair magic, as you're going to see Drew moving down to 5 cards here. When Merfolk doesn't have Aether Vial, it's still, a pretty good deck, but it gets to play completely unfair magic when you're vialing in Silver Gill Adepts for free, vialing in, your Lord of Atlantis or your Master of the Pearl Trident, in combat to make your guys a little bit bigger. Having Phantasmal Image in the deck as well to vial in on 2. Really good against some different types of decks. Good against Reanimator with their Legends. Good at just copying Lords, copying Silver Gill Adept. Has a lot of use. Kind of stinks that it's not a Merfolk, but it is kind of a Merfolk in disguise. And then one card that is kind of interesting in his deck I didn't expect to see is a Sig River Cutthroat. One of Michael Jacobs' favorite cards. He loves old Siggy.
It's surprising because Aether Vial is one of those cards that's incredibly powerful, but you don't see it get much play.
Yeah. You see it get played in tribal decks. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So it looks like Drew had the mulligan to 5, and again, we mentioned all the terrible cards that he has in his main deck for this matchup. Cards like Blood Moon, which he happens to have in his opening hand. It makes it very difficult for him to have a good mulligan. Then,
You see Scott. If you didn't know, if you've never seen Scott before, he does play pretty fast, as he has a Silver Gill Adept. Now you're going to see a Master of the Pearl Trident. Going to get in for 3 there. Daze on the Sensei's Divine Top, and Drew did not have a second land. So Scott is doing what Merfolk does, which is, it gets an advantage, and then it pushes it over by making them bigger and bigger and bigger and closing out the game very, very fast.
Yeah, and you can see Scott's not messing around. He really just wants to close this game out quickly. Doesn't want to give a chance of Drew to draw out of this one. He knows he's got a huge advantage right now, and he's pressing it as much as he can.
He's against, the thing about Drew's deck, again, he can play a Painter Servant and then play a Grindstone and get the game over with immediately. He's going to need to be able to do that. As you see him tapping 1 mana here, you see the Grindstone. So he has 1 piece of the combo here. Scott going to take a draw step, see if he can add another Lord to the board. You see 2 Wastelands, an Aether Vial, an Island, a Coral Helm Commander, and a Mystery card. I think that's actually the Sig in his hand.
And it's interesting because Scott really doesn't have any permission right here. So if Drew is able to naturally just draw his combo, there's very little Scott can do right now.
Oh.
And I don't believe he has any removal in his main deck.
1 Dismember.
So he's 1 Dismember. So it looks like we're going to see an Aether Vial here, and
there's the Sig River Cutthroat.
So he wants to draw a card, so it'll give him something to do.
He draws a Mutavault off of that, which is okay. We'll bring up Sig for you guys to see what it does. It is that 2 mana 1/3, as you're going to see Phyrexian Revoker here.
And naming some Aether Vial.
Yeah, either Aether Vial, and you can't name Wasteland, of course. It's a non-land card with the Revoker.
Wow, he has a standstill now. So, pretty huge draw for Scott. It's going to let him. He can play Mutavault now. Attack with everything. Revoker probably blocks something, but it's not a big deal. Scott's going to be able to play a standstill, and he'll play the other Merfolk in his hand, but he can play a Merfolk and standstill.
So he's going to come across with everyone. He's going to offer up the trade with the Master of the Pearl Trident here. Revoker can jump in front of that. He will take 5 on the attack, and that's fine. He's going to go down to 7. He has a Mutavault in his hand. He does have that standstill as well.
I think he doesn't want to play the Mutavault yet, so he can cast both spells. So
gotcha.
Here comes standstill. Can he draw a card of Sig, or no? He missed the trigger, or?
I feel like he did miss the trigger, actually, as he did deal 3 points of damage. Yeah, just playing a little too quick. And there's your standstill. 1, 2, 3.
Did he okay, so Pirate Blast, the Norfolk, draws 3 cards.
Takes care of the Coral Helm Commander here. Scott has 2 lords. It is going to be a wrap, and you can see Drew just kind of floundering around. You see a Phantasmal Image. You're going to see a Lord of Atlantis here.
Yeah, so
He's going to copy.
doesn't have any real permission to stop Painter Servant, but it doesn't matter. He's got enough pressure on the board to close the game out now.
Yep.
So.
And that is 7 points of damage. He plays Lord of Atlantis, copies it with Phantasmal Image, attacks for 7. Exactly what Drew's at. And that is going to do it.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need the counter spells if you're aggressive enough.
Yeah, give the beatdowns.
Just get the beatdowns, especially against a deck like Imperial Painter that mulligans to 5.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so what are we going to see after board here?
Well, after board here, we're going to cut the trivia really quick. Then we'll go after sideboards for you. So we're going to cut it back to you and I very quickly for you, and we're going to ask a trivia question. Very simple game that we play. If you guys have ever tuned in before, I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to be on the Twitter, Twitter sphere, and you're going to tweet the answer to us with the hashtag of SCG Premium. We'll choose from one of the winners, and one of the people who gets it correct, one of the winners will win 3 months of premium. The question's actually pretty easy. I like to ask an easy one to start the show. Within Drew's, you're gonna like this one too. Within Drew's deck, he has a couple of cards that he can search for with the Imperial Recruiter. One of which is a legend, and does a lot of different things. 3-mana 2/2. It can incinerate something. Kind of like a walking pyroblast. Has like a big ultimate too. Name that card. Name that legend.
That's a good question.
Yeah, tough question.
Solid question.
Tough question. There's a one of, again, in Drew's, I think, an Imperial Recruiter for 3-mana 2/2. It does a lot of different things. Got some snappy art on there, a little whip.
Could be good in this matchup.
Yeah, pretty good against blue decks. So if you're able to name that card, tweet us the answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium, and we'll choose from one of the winners, and one of you guys will get 3 months of premium.
Tweet at us. Yeah. Tweet at us.
Talk to us. Interact with us. You get the red one. What do we got sideboard in here for Drew?
Drew Fetter here. So, you know what? I kind of like Ensnaring Bridge in this matchup.
Yeah, we saw that was really good for him earlier.
Yeah,
too.
I like, obviously, I like 2 red Elemental Blasts. That's definitely coming in. Pretty good at stopping, blue cards.
Ooh, okay.
Ratchet Bomb, also another card I like. There's also one other card that I think he should bring in, but I'm not going to say it because we just cast the trivia question. So let's just say there's one other card I think he should board in this matchup, and it's not Fairy Macabre, it's not Tormod's Crypt. So in my opinion, I think Thorn of Amethyst, it's interesting, but I think that's really more of an anti-combo card. So I think there's 9 cards that he wants to bring in this matchup.
As far as Scott, he just wants to be able to give the beatdowns while stopping his runner from doing anything. That's the goal here. So you're going to find in his sideboard, he does have 2 copies of Pithing Needle. That'll take care of the old Grindstone. He does have a copy of Misdirection. He has a Umezawa Jite, Kira Great Glass Spinner, a copy of Curse Totem, Spell Snare, Threats of Disloyalty. So some decent cards that he can bring in here. I expect to see the Umezawa Jite come in. Expect to see the Spell Snares that can counter Painter Serving. Expect to see the 2 copies of Pithing Needle as well. Would be surprised to see Threats of Disloyalty come in. Submerge, not really at home here. Relic of Progenitus, Hercules Recall, again, not particularly at home here. Recall's not that bad. As it can, he activates, he has the Painter in play, activates the Grindstone, casts Hercules Recall, he has to pick up the Painter. So then it'll only mill the 2 cards, unless, Drew's running really good. So I could see that one coming in as well, but it is kind of fringy, and he has so many good cards in his deck already that I don't think that he would want to board in something, so fringy. We'd rather have like a Daze, a Standstill, Force Will, those type of cards.
Yeah.
Maybe Curse Catcher isn't at its best here, so that will probably be one of the first cards I think will go, so that Scott can board in, again, these Pithing Needles and some other cards here.
Yeah, Curse Catcher isn't great. It's be interesting to see whether or not Drew does bring in the Ensnaring Bridge. Obviously, it would have been good that game, but I don't know. I'd like to see what happens, because it's also be interesting if there's an Ensnaring Bridge in play. Scott really doesn't have any ways to destroy an Ensnaring Bridge. I mean, he's probably not bringing the Hercules Recall, but he does have Standstill. So he could play Standstill and then crack it, allowing Drew to draw 3, which might be enough to attack with his creatures. So that's one way he has around Standstill. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens if Drew does bring in the Snaring Bridges.
Drew plays a turn 1 Sensei's Divine Top. You're going to see a Scalding Tarn here off of the Ancient Tomb and activated it. Scott's turn 1 is just an island, so he still is without Aether Vial to start the game. But you do see his hand. He has a Daze in there, among other things. You're going to see Ancient Tomb get tapped again, helping Scott do the work for him, putting him down to 16. So he's going to need to take advantage of this, as you are going to see Painter's Servant, piece 1 of the combo. And he's just going to pass back.
There's no Daze. Oh, there's a Wasteland for an Ancient Tomb, so...
That's not so bad. So you guys are going to see Painter's Servant on the screen. The old Scarecrow. And he did name blue with it, unsurprisingly. Make those, those Pyroblasts and those Red Element Blasts even better.
Drew did not even try to pretend like he didn't just draw a land there. So clearly he's a little land light here, which is going to make the Daze in Scott's hand very good. But he does have a top.
Yep.
As well as he still has a Scalding Tarn in play that he can shuffle away if there's not 3 lands on top of his deck. Because obviously, with the Painter's Servant in play and multiple Red Elemental Blasts, he just wants to draw mana.
Yeah.
He does have a Simian Spirit Guide in his hand, which could be a little tricky in case Scott tries to Daze something. But again, I think Drew, with Scott at 1 land and no Aether Vial in play, I think he just wants to generate some mana here. I don't think it's really necessary to try to be aggressive and cast go all in on some card right here, like a Jaya.
Sure.
Yeah.
He drew a card with top right away.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he did that.
They didn't play anything. That was a little bit surprising to me. I don't know why he would do that, because now he has to invest the mana again. So you're gonna see him play a mountain here. Scott, of course, does have just the Lord of Atlantis in play. It's not going to stop Painter's Servant from attacking. Now you're going to see Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he drew the card there. Is he thinking about Pyroblasting this?
Now again, when he does have so many of those effects in his deck. He has 7. But you don't want to use them willy-nilly. You want to make sure that you use them at the right time, and maybe use them as reactive counter magic instead of just as 1 mana Vindicate here for Lord of Atlantis, because again, he's not going to deal 19 damage.
Yeah,
Painter's Servant.
I don't think you want to Pyroblast here. I think you want to see what Scott's play is. You can afford to take 2 to get a little more information. If Scott doesn't have a land here, it'd be interesting to see. Okay, so
Master of the Pearl Trident.
I don't know. I would at the very least sack my Scalding Tarn and top to see.
Just get some more information.
I think he should have topped him. He really just wants to hit his mana.
Yep.
He doesn't. Don't be afraid of what's in play. Just make sure you hit your mana here. Now he might top main phase, and then he might activate the top just to draw a land so he can make his land drop for the turn. But again, he's not using his resources. He's not maximizing his mana. He's not using his resources to the fullest. So even though he's got some Red Elemental Blasts, Scott can put him in a position where he just starts draining all of his resources.
And then again, if he does, as you're going to see, an Ensnaring Bridge here, and you're going to see a Daze.
And we have a Semi-Spirit Guide. We should probably use it here for that.
Yep. And this was the scary thing for Scott, because again, Ensnaring Bridge is difficult for this deck to beat. Drew has a couple of cards in his hand, but the goal of Merfolk is to make those guys big with those Lords and give the beatdowns.
Yeah, and because Drew has so many Pyroblasts and Red Elemental Blasts after board, even if Scott's plan is to try to play his only plan is to play Standstill and make Drew draw 3 cards, and then hopefully he can attack with his creatures that way. But again, Drew has a lot of instants that you could just, hit with multiple Lords in play. He probably only needs to get rid of 1 card. So, Ensnaring Bridge is pretty good in this matchup, especially if Scott's unprepared for it.
And we talked about Hurkyl's Recall in the sideboard of Scott's deck and how, it would be kind of weird for him to board it in. But, I mean, looking at things now, because there are 4 Ensnaring Bridges, because you can break up, the Painter plus Grindstone activation, it almost makes it seem like you should be boarding those in.
Yeah, I think he probably did. Just because, he maybe in the Swiss he didn't, but again, he played Drew in the Swiss. Maybe he saw Ensnaring Bridge. Maybe That's one of the reasons he lost to it. Now he has perfect information. He knows what his deck list is. So again, you probably board into Hurkyl's Recall just to make sure that you don't lose to it.
Now you see he's just copying Silver Guild up to just get through his deck.
Yeah, so it looks
seems
like
to
he's
me,
digging.
Yeah, he has some way to get out of this.
And again, it's going to give Drew a lot of time to find his grindstone, but it's not gonna. He's got to.
You're just sitting behind the old shield.
Yeah, so far it's not bad, but one Hurkyl's Recall and Scott might have enough in play to just kill him. I'd say in one more turn, especially with the Mutavault in play too.
The other thing to keep in mind, of course, is again with Drew's deck, he has all of those Pyroblast effects. He's already cast one this game. He has a second one in his hand. He has a red Elemental Blast, so he can counter that Hurkyl's Recall unless Scott has force of will to start fighting over that.
Which he does, and obviously I think Scott's going to try to sculpt his hand perfectly. But the question is, the odds are in Drew's favor because Drew has 4 grindstones and Scott only has 2 Hurkyl's Recall. So even though Scott can cantrip a couple times, Drew just has eventuality on his side.
And so now we're going to see he has a Cursed Totem in his hand. He's moving around his mana quite a bit here. One thing he needs to do is make sure he keeps the blue card in his hand for that Force of Will. The only reason to dump all of those guys out there.
Yeah, I don't see why he would really play everything out right now. He has critical mass. If he draws another Force of Will, he would have really wanted that blue card in his hand. So
now Scott plays Cursed Totem from his sideboard, a card that we're going to bring up for you guys. Mirage, is it?
I think it's Mirage. Yeah. Players cannot play any creature abilities, so
requiring activation costs.
Not that great against Drew's deck. It's just on Jaya and Goblin Welder. But beyond that, maybe Jaya is obviously very good against Scott's deck.
Yeah.
So
Simeon Spirit Guide in the house. You gotta keep cards out of his hand.
Yeah, he's gotta keep cards out of his hand.
But
again, he could pitch that at any time, so
that's true.
Not sure I like just jamming a creature out there, especially you never know if you might need an extra mana later on, or if you draw another. I'm not sure why he keeps casting his blue cards.
I think the reason behind this is just because, first of all the cards are blue. So my thought of him having to keep a blue card in his hand for Force Will doesn't matter because Painter Servant makes everything blue. So he can just hold a land, actually, for Force Will.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, so that's the first thing that I actually glossed over.
No, but the real thing though is that what if he draws a Force of Will now? I think he just wants 3 cards in his hand. I agree with you. Anything's blue. But what if he only has? Oh, is that a Dismember?
Dismember.
Oh, so there you go. That's gonna be pretty huge right here.
But you see a second Ensnaring Bridge come into play, so now it is almost integral that Scott did bring in those Hurkyl's Recalls, which he has 2 copies of, and now you're going to see a card off the screen. I can't quite make. That might be Imperial Recruiter.
Yeah.
As they're going to slide things over for us, and
so
it is Imperial Recruiter.
He allowed that to resolve. He's going to find a Painter Servant, I'm assuming.
He can find Painter Servant, he can find Jay Ballard, he can find Goblin Welder, Magus of the Moon, Phyrexian Metamorph is something he can find.
With the Cursed Totem in play, I think he just wants to find Painter Servant, just to make sure that in case Scott does have the 1 Dismember, which he's aware of,
yeah,
he has redundancy there. But
so I think the reason you see him get a Recruiter here is he'll be able to. He searches with Imperial Recruiter for another Imperial Recruiter, gets to shuffle his deck.
Yep.
Fix with the top. If the top is bad, he gets to shuffle it again. You're just going to see a Tithing Needle here from Scott, and we'll figure out what that's naming. If it's going to be Grindstone, or if it's going to be Sensei's Divining Top. And it is Sensei's Divining Top because that's a bigger problem right now.
Did he not activate in response, assuming that he was going to be able to?
Yeah, and you can tell that's exactly what they're talking about. Because Tithing Needle, that card is as it comes into play, not when it comes into play. So it never goes in the stack. The only time you have a chance to respond is when you're actually casting the Tithing Needle.
And Drew probably just assumed he was going to name Grindstone.
Yeah. And so they are going to let.
Look. Yep. And I definitely agree with Scott's decision there because, you know, obviously Drew, that's pretty much the only manipulation Drew has to find the other piece. He has Imperial Recruiter as a way to find Painter Servant, but he doesn't really have a way to find Grindstone.
Yep. That's the big issue. You know, a lot of these Imperial Recruiter decks that you do find, they're typically, so, you know, some of them are mono red, other ones are red blue. Imperial Recruiter can find Trinket Mage. You can go through the back door, Trinket Mage for the Grindstone, be able to go off. But you know, this mono red version, one of the bonuses of it is that Blood Moon, a card that Drew is playing 4 of, doesn't hurt him
Oh,
at
so
all.
wait, did he not name top then?
Yeah, so Drew wanted to respond, so he's doing all of that responding. It looks like right now.
No, but he's topping on his upkeep, so I'm assuming.
Okay, Drew responded with top, so Scott named Grindstone. Okay, perfect.
Makes sense.
So thank you for our table spotter there, clearing that up. So tops are live, Grindstones are off. We see a Goblin Welder now. What are you gonna do?
So if yeah, it's not sure what. I mean, hopefully he boarded in the Ratchet Bomb. But short of that,
Question: is there any way for me to go off if that's naming Grindstone? Is there any way to get that off of the board game 1? If you're gonna see another Imperial Recruiter here.
he has Ratchet Bomb. No, it doesn't look like there's the combination of Pioneer Needle and Curse of Totem is really what's gonna win Scott the game. I mean, Drew's only answer is Ratchet Bomb. I don't see anything else that.
Well, again, so easy to look over this because I was thinking the same thing. Painter Servant makes everything blue, so he can blast it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he can blast the issue.
That's right. Yeah. So clearly.
Hey,
We
you
should be
don't
paying
you don't
attention
see
a
this
little
deck.
more.
Maybe you don't see this deck very often because I keep
Yeah.
forgetting that Painter Servant actually does
Painter
that.
Servant, yeah.
When you think of Painter Servant,
There
Grindstone,
isn't.
you
There
just
isn't.
think of the mill.
I blame that the fact that there's no piece of paper signaling that.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Put it on Drew.
Yes.
That you don't know what the cards
So
do. I understand.
So this is great here. So this is actually a great position for Drew.
Yeah.
He can just Power Blast the Curse's Totem and then start jying Scott out of the game.
like a dream come true for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Scott does have a Dismember for the Jaya, but
I mean, there are so many blue blasts in the deck. And you're gonna. I think we're gonna see him make a move here.
I think so.
Yep, there's a blast.
I'm gonna try to blast the Curse Totem. I'm gonna see a Dismember on. Ooh. So he's using it on the Painter Servant. The problem is that the Jaya could is probably good enough to win the game. Jaya and Ensnaring Bridge are pretty good, and I believe Dismember is his only removal spell.
So the blast is targeting the totem, or is it targeting the needle?
Oh, I'm sorry. So I think it's targeting the totem. So he wants to kill the Painter Servant in response to the Power Blast. Therefore, I think it'll fizzle the Power Blast.
Yeah.
Yep. So
It's no longer that color for the Painter Servant.
yeah.
So now, you know, you see the counter war. The blast doesn't resolve because of a resolution. It doesn't check out. And now you see Drew activate the top, and so we go back to doing this.
So now, yeah, he really needs.
He needs another blast. You're gonna see.
So he's got another.
Painter
He's got a servant.
Okay.
I think Scott just has a Lord in his hand. So I think Drew has a magma. Yeah. So I think Drew has a magma spray, a magma jet. So he can scry a little bit, and between the scry and the top, he should be able to dig at least 4 cards for another elemental blast.
2 and 3. See if he likes what he sees. Scott organizing the board position for us. We're very grateful, Scott, even though you can't hear us.
So he did draw a Pyroblast, it looks like. Is he gonna cast Magma Jet here?
I think this is that's going upstairs. 2. Bottoms up.
Everything's
Clear the
on
top.
bottom. Scrying again. Hoping to maybe draw a little redundancy.
And if this is a blast, he can't take care of the totem, but he just passes the turn. Scott draws his card. And And again, he's basically, I mean, if we have everything correct here, he's on a 2-outer.
So what do we have here?
Imperial Recruiter. He's holding on that blast for a while here.
Okay, so maybe he just wants another Painter Servant.
And make sure it's safe.
Make sure it's safe. Does he have one? What's he going to go for? He's just going for another Imperial Recruiter.
Shuffle away, I guess.
So what's he afraid of? Just Scott drawing another Force of Will? He doesn't have Blue Elemental Blast in the sideboard, right?
No.
So his only hard counter is Force of Will. Maybe he just wants to dig a little more to find a second one, just because, again, he is kind of all in on this plan, right? Can you afford to not go for it here, though?
There's no rush.
You're gonna give Scott another draw.
Wasteland puts it right into play. Scott just passes the turn back, and again, 2 Hurkyl's recalls. It's the best he can do. You're gonna see mana tapped here. You're gonna see Painter's Servant. Well, I think he probably meant to cast Imperial Recruiter. As you see, he did tap 3 mana, so it may have been a mistake there. We'll see what our spotter and all our friends rule.
So yeah, it looks like he meant the Imperial Recruiter. Accidentally dropped the Servant. So they're letting him take it back. So what are we gonna have here? We're gonna go for another Painter Servant? Magus?
Magus of the Moon.
Alright. Well, either way, looks like we're gonna try top again. Hope to draw another blast so that we can be a little safer.
Surprising he can't. Again, I mean, it's kind of surprising he hasn't found a grindstone yet.
Yeah, but again, with the needle in play, it won't really matter.
He has the 1 blast for the needle, and then he's able to grindstone. But I mean, he just feels like he needs some protection. He feels like he needs multiple blasts to set this whole thing up.
I don't know. He knows Scott only has 1 curse totem. I don't like the fact that he's just letting him keep drawing cards, getting closer to Force of Will, and possibly that Hurkyl's Recall.
Copy Silvergill, draw a new one, pass the turn.
Look at him. You could tell he wants to go for it, but he's so scared of pulling the trigger.
I mean, what goes wrong if we pull the trigger here?
He has a Force of Will. Force of Will is pretty much the only card that can stop it. Yeah, I mean, I think this is, yeah. So I just don't understand why you would wait and wait and wait and then allow Scott to draw a card and then decide to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, we've been seeing this all weekend. These players have a plan in mind, and then for some reason they hesitate and they decide to do something else, and it ends up costing them. It's like, I'm not in love with this plan of not pyroblasting immediately when he drew it, but if you're gonna do it, then just do it. You wait until you draw your second one.
That City of Traders should go away. No, Blood Moon in play? Okay, never. Oh, Magus of the Moon. Never mind.
So
that's not going to trigger. Forgot that he did play the Magus.
And he's running low on Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, I believe.
Yeah, he's just kind of using them willy-nilly. That's the thing. I mean, he does have 7 copy of those in his deck after Sideway. I think he's used. I mean, he's definitely used at least 3, potentially 4 of them.
I mean, there is a chance that maybe Scott just did import into Hurkyl's Recall. So.
Right, then, another Painter Servant, sure.
You know, if that's the case, this might just be a long game.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, take a draw.
I'm also surprised that Drew, I don't know, maybe Drew, oh, he does, wow.
There's a Silvergill.
He has a 3rd Force of Will.
Take a draw. Mutable. Go. Spin the top.
Not sure why he's doing this again. He already knows these cards, so, you know. Interesting to see if he can get the. Alright, decides to just cast the Summoning Spirit Guide.
Yeah, I mean, he's just at this point you can tell he's just.
Oh, so he
there
did the
it is.
Hercules Recall.
There she is.
Well, the good thing about playing out all those guys is at least he can chump block.
Yes.
So
that's actually like, pretty important.
yes.
Now, trying to figure out exactly what does this bounce everything here, and can he get in for a lethal attack? That's the question you have to ask here, because what's going to be left over? You see a Welder, you see 4 Imperial Recruiters, a Magus, 2 Simian Spirit Guides. You see all this crap in the way, and those Mutavaults are not going to be turned on.
Although Jaya will be turned on. Which again, if he didn't cast that Simian Spirit Guide, he could have activated Jaya's ability, correct?
The thing is, Hercules Recall, it targets a player for all the artifacts that are
Oh,
going to
does it? Okay, yeah. So Curse's Totem doesn't.
So yeah, so the vial and all that stuff is going to stay.
Okay.
It's a one-sided hoser. And now you see Lord of Atlantis coming in. It's going to tap one of his guys. That Lord is sick, and of course all of these doofuses are coming over. And the question is, does he have enough blockers for all of this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blockers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 attackers.
I think he only has 8 blockers.
Was it 8 blockers? You
Because
see
one
the
of them's
Welder at
tapped.
the top. Okay, one of them is tapped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I mean, Drew's at 14, so.
Yeah, I mean, only 2 guys need to get through. I'm just saying if 2 guys can get through.
2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Looks like 9 are coming in, and he's got 8 blockers.
And he has to block everyone, so he's going to lose everything. Unless we're missing something here. Maybe something's off the screen that we can't see. And Drew is probably not dead this turn. That's what it looks like.
It looks like he has enough to survive by blocking.
That's that Lord being sick. How much does that matter? So you just see like
So he's just jamming his creatures in there.
Block enough stuff, let the smallest one through. Take some amount of damage.
All right, so Scott has 1 Force of Will to stop one of the bridges. Will he use it though? He knows Drew has 2 bridges. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he'll counter the first one. So the one Intruder was tapped.
Yep. So he just has 1 guy left. Can you get enough cards out of his hand?
Well, they're all his merfolk are really large.
Yeah.
So it's not like he has to get everything out.
Cool.
He has to. I think if he can get 2 more cards out of his hand, he should be okay.
I guess I'm a little surprised that he didn't Wasteland. Because the Magus and
Oh,
the Moon is
definitely.
gone?
Yeah. Definitely should have Wastelanded.
Just to cut his mana so he can't use it all. I think he just Wasteland the City of Traders. So he does have to use the Ancient Tomb and take 2 from that. And he just passes back.
So,
Draw a card. Here. Force of Will and X. So, okay, so the Hercules Recall play, is that even good then? Like, Hercules recalling, making him pick up stuff, make him lose a bunch of stuff, and then it's just like, alright, you're at 6, and now I'm in the same spot. Like, yeah, all those guys are on the board, but none of those guys were relevant anyway.
I mean,
there's a grindstone.
He's all in on his second recall. I mean,
okay.
He probably didn't need to cast it then.
There's the fear of, well, there's more blessed. I have to play around,
Yeah,
so
but
I
he has
want to
a
get out of the
force.
way. Yeah, but he has the force, yeah.
And he's not really drawing any cards. Yeah, if you can't kill him there, it's a bit of an awkward play because you only have 1 Hercules recall left.
Yeah.
Maybe he just did the math wrong.
There's an ensnaring bridge. So he has 2 bridges. So yeah, we're back in the same position. Drew has a lot less guys. Scott's going to draw a card. Scott draws Master of the Pearl Trident. Doesn't really change very much. And now he's wastelanding the Ancient Tomb.
Yeah. So what does Drew need here? 2 Elemental Blasts.
Yeah. He needs 1 blast to get rid of the Pithing Needle.
Well, one to get through the Force of Will, and 1 to actually destroy the Pithing Needle. Yep.
So there's your second Painter Servant.
So,
and there's your second top.
He has no more Imperial Recruiter, so he can't shuffle his deck, I don't believe.
Outside of he has
3 Scalding
he has
Tarns.
a couple turns. I know he's sacked a couple so far this game. Scott draws a card, draws another Master of the Pearl Trident.
All right, so let's see. Still doesn't have permission. Still doesn't have red elemental blast.
Another Painter Servant. You see him play a mountain. City goes away.
Back. Merfolk into play. Again, nothing relevant for Scott. Just a waiting game. See who draws their bomb first.
Yeah, it really is.
Thankfully, I mean, Drew is topping each turn, but without a shuffle effect, he's not really looking at any more cards than Scott is.
Yeah. Draws a card.
I mean, a Scalding Tower would be great, but wow. Okay, so this is the kind of the play we discussed, but the problem is all his guys are so big.
Yeah, they're gigantic.
Yeah, so the only thing it's going to really help him with is if Drew actually does get double Pyroblast, then maybe Scott can draw into another counterspell. But again, I think he used a lot of his Forcibles.
Yeah, he's already used 2 Forcibles. We know he has the 3rd one in his hand. I think he's got 1 left in his deck.
So he's got 1 left in his deck. So yeah, I think Drew's still pretty live with double Elemental Blast, Pyroblast, some combination. But it's, he's going to need to get it soon.
Go ahead. There's a mountain. Spin it up.
All right.
Just every land that Drew finds.
Does he have even 1?
Go ahead. Draw a card. And so this is the thing that I'm a little bit scared of, right? Whereas, he puts every land that he draws into play, and eventually he's going to stop drawing lands, and he's going to start drawing spells, and he's Drew going to realize that, casting a spell and breaking a standstill isn't technically that bad for me to give my opponent 3 new cards. Like, it's not good, but it's not really that bad either. But again, for Drew, if he gets up to 7 cards, that's when Scott's going to bust a standstill, put Drew up to 10. You're going to see Silvergill Adept here, draw him an island, and then do these guys have more power than 10? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, they're pretty big. Yeah. I think he's all in on recall. He can't even do the standstill play. He's got too many lords in play.
Standstill play is going to be tough. The number of lords he has in play, he has 3 Master of the Pearl Tridents, 3 Lord of Atlantis, and Merrill Regery. So if you look at Regery and all those pluses...
Okay, so it looks like Drew has 1 of the Pyroblasts. Still level.
All that up. See, I think this is bad making him this big.
He only has 1 other standstill. I just don't see... He's all in on recall.
I think he can make the it's very, very difficult to make the standstill out. I mean, he would have to have it so that Drew's at 7 cards and then bust a standstill on his turn and put Drew up to, 9 cards or whatever, or 10 cards. But he can do that.
I don't think so. Drew doesn't have many cards in his hand. He's got 2 cards in his hand, and if anything, he's just going to allow him to draw 1 of his other Pyroblasts or Red Elemental Blast, and then he can kill him at instant speed anytime. Actually, no.
Yeah, he can't kill him at instant speed because he has to draw a card.
He has to draw a card still, but...
Both players 17 cards left in their library. Is it actually going to come down to decking?
This is quite the endurance. So he does have the double Forcible now.
Yeah,
so
now he has 2 forces left.
Drew's going to have 3 Red Elemental Blasts.
There's Nation Tomb. Spin the top.
I think these are the type of fun interactive games WotC had in mind when they made Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah. We're going to see top get spun again.
Are we going to get to a point where Drew just breaks the standstill on Scott's turn to deck him?
I think that's a very realistic thing, yes.
If the recall is at the bottom 3 cards of Scott's library, then I think that's something that...
I think that's very, very realistic as you see him spinning top yet again.
Yeah, this can get to the point where, like, Drew has to just realize that Scott could break the... Scott can break the standstill by himself, making you draw enough cards, because Drew missed a couple of land drops in there, so he's getting to the point where he has like 5 or 6 cards in his hand, I believe now. One of them's a Simian Spirit Guide, we know, so that's good, but... yeah, it's... Drew, I just hope Drew's aware of the fact that Scott can break the standstill, so he's got to be aware of that.
Scalding Tarn, Drew played. Lets him shuffle at the top. Kind of a big deal, actually.
So is Scott going to try to go for it here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. It looks like Drew has 6 cards in his hand.
Just go down to
I
5.
don't think it's quite enough because of the amount of lords in play.
So yeah, this is the point I was trying to make earlier with him continuously playing out the lords.
Yeah.
It's because if they were at around 7, 7 or 8, 8 range. Right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you look at Marrow Reader and count the other lords around it, there are 8 lords. You count the 7 there in the core Helm Commander. So plus 8 is a 10-10. So he's going to have to make it so that Drew has 11 cards in his hand. He can't do that.
Yeah.
But if he would have slowed down and left it so at around 7 or 8 range, breaks the standstill, makes him draw the cards, puts him up to 10. Maybe things break your way. He doesn't draw any more Spirit Guides because he's already cast a couple of them.
Yeah.
Then he can't remove the cards.
Yep.
Or he has to go around just or red blasting things, get cards out of his hand.
I really like to know how many Pyroblasts and Elemental Blasts Drew has left in his deck. If it's more than 2, then I think inevitability is on his side here. But it depends on where that Hercules Recall is.
Yeah.
And the way that Scott's playing makes me think that maybe he didn't even board in the second one. Is he concerned that his out is basically decking Drew? I'm not. I wonder, but it looks like he's going for it. He's going to try to. Oh no, he's just discarding.
Yeah, just discarding.
So,
I mean, with both players having similar libraries, it could just be a little standstill battle.
Yeah, it looks like it might just try to be. Don't think he's going to be able to break the standstill and get enough cards in Drew's hand. Especially because Drew has a lot of instants. I mean, he's got multiple Magma Jets. He's got a Simian Spirit Guide to pitch.
The thing is, I'm convinced that now the out of having Drew up at 7 cards and then breaking standstill on Scott's turn to make Drew draw 3 cards, I think that's gone now.
Yeah,
there's too many lords in play.
I think that's gone now.
But a thing that could happen is we could actually just have a standstill battle where
he decks him.
Yeah, where he tries to deck him, and then you just have both players just casting a bunch of spells with standstill on the stack.
Yeah.
And trying to run the other player out and make the standstill actually target the other person.
But that's not going to happen for at least I think they have maybe 10 cards left in the library.
Yeah, I mean that's not going to happen.
There's like 4 turns, yeah. So, and again, if Scott has at least 3 Elemental Blasts left in his deck, there's a good chance that he could still win this game. But
the thing is, is Drew familiar with that interaction?
Okay,
There's a Hercules Recall.
There's a Hercules Recall.
That's the thing. Is Drew familiar with that interaction with standstill? How Scott can play a spell and then Drew can respond to that spell, the standstill trigger on the stack, and push it back and forth.
Not quite sure, but I think this Hercules Recall is probably.
We're gonna count it up this time.
Drew basically needs 4 Pyroblasts or Red Elemental Blasts.
Just pass
so he's not gonna go for it yet.
Drew draws a card. Wants to get those cards out of his hand.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
Maybe he wants to do it at the end of turn.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
because what if he just targets an Elemental Blast on the needle?
Yeah.
Then he can activate the Grindstone, and then Scott has a draw step.
Yep.
He wants to do it on his phase, on his main phase. Because Drew will be drawing a lot of cards.
Lotus
looks
battle.
like he's breaking a standstill.
Okay. 1 Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce relevant here?
No, I don't think so. I think
I'd be very
Drew
surprised.
has too much mana.
Yeah, he's making his move.
He's making his move now.
This makes the recall even better too. We're gonna see Pyroblast here on the Pithing Needle.
Yep.
Moving on in.
And I believe Scott. Well, the Hercules Recall is obviously huge.
You also wonder, as you see Scott remove a blue card to Force of Will, he doesn't have to do that. He can remove a land to Force of Will. Makes you wonder if he knows that interaction there with the Painter's Servant, because all of his cards are blue.
I just don't think he wants to use his mana. Let's see here. He's got the other Force of Will. I mean, Drew's got to be mindful here because. All right, I don't think he has anything else.
Is there only 2 blasts?
Doesn't look like he has another blast here.
2 mana? Shy, he doesn't have another blast.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You picked this fight at the wrong time.
Yeah.
He's going to spin top.
Why would you play the Jaya then? I don't. I would prefer to Magma Jet and scry a little bit.
Yeah, get some stuff
Get
out of the way.
You know those cards because one of them's a top.
Yeah,
He's really using his resources poorly right here.
Yeah, all this stuff should have been happening during the counter war. You know, he jets, puts this stuff on the bottom.
And Scott's playing this perfectly because even if Drew now finds the third Pyroblast for this turn, he could still cast Hurkyl's Recall. And I just don't think that, he's making him use all his mana.
Yeah,
so,
days.
Yeah, he won't be able to play Servant. He won't be able to play Servant, Grindstone, and Activate all in the same turn. So Drew just uses resources very poorly, even if he did find the other Pyroblast, but it just won't matter now. Yeah, Scott played this one perfectly, and Drew, he just took advantage of the fact that Drew just mismanaged his resources.
Well, here's the issue now. He has the recall, and Drew has the blast on top of his deck, so he can blast whatever Scott. He can blast the recall now. So it's not like he can't get through.
Well, that's the thing. Is he going to do that, or is he going to try to? That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you see here is Scott plays a. Yes, that was awesome. Scott plays a Pithing Needle. He plays the other Pithing Needle, and I think he named Sensei's Divining Top so that he can't draw a card. And then cast Hurkyl's Recall.
Did he get a chance to respond?
So, and we just had this situation earlier, and you can see Scott explaining right now.
So he is gonna activate?
Yeah, respond to the draw, Hurkyl's Recall.
Great.
So Drew says, I didn't have the opportunity to respond, so can I respond to your Pithing Needle? And Scott says, fine. He said, draw a card. Game.
Wow.
Scott Barrentine.
That was really well played on Scott's part.
2-0 with the Merfolk deck. Beats Drew Feder playing Imperial Painter. Very well played by Scott. Patience. Patience.
Wow.
Patience. That is an example of something that we've seen over the course of the weekend. Drew not really knowing what he needs to accomplish in that situation. I'm sure it was a very unfamiliar position for him of knowing, okay, I need to accumulate a whole bunch of blue blasts before I can go off. And I'm sitting behind these bridges, so I'm not really underneath a lot of pressure. I don't really have to flinch, but you're uncomfortable just sitting there, draw, go, top, draw, go, top. And then we saw him just pick his spot incorrectly. And while the entire time Scott was just there, just draw, go, play a card, do whatever, draw, go, play a card. I know what my outs are. I know what I need to do to play my outs correctly and get my outs to get through.
Yeah, I just don't understand what was going on that last turn. I mean, it seemed like Drew was confused as to what his outs were. Because, you know, he tries to go for the Pyroblast, that doesn't work. Then he randomly decides to just cast a Jaya that has almost no impact on the board whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then he says, now I'm going to probably Magma Jet you to try to scry more. Like, he just didn't plan that out really well at all.
Yeah.